Marcus Rashford bought this Rolls-Royce for £700,000. He later crashed it then went to a Salve Oran and I bought it, oh my god, for £84,000. Later found out that Mansur parts are extortionately expensive, £2,600, that's £2,000, £3,200 for that. But the reason this car is so expensive is because it's Mansur, so I think I'm going to have no choice but to replace them. But what we didn't know was what actually happened on the night of the accident, but today we found out the truth. Rashford has watched the video and then his team have reached out to me and they've given us some vital information. When I first picked up the car we were really struggling to get it started. Come on Rolls-Royce, come on, we tried everything over and over again, someone stopping it, but then I know what it is, we eventually got it started. Yeah, now we thought the reason why it wouldn't start the first time was to do with the brake pressure. You have to push the brake down before you press the start button, and with the brake line ripped off at the back we wasn't getting much brake pressure, but we clamped the brake line after getting it started the first time and it still wouldn't start. But now we found that actual reason and why it wouldn't start. The car has a ghost immobilizer is installed by a third-party company and it's there to prevent theft. Even if someone was to get in the car with the key they wouldn't be able to start it unless they had the special code to enter in before pressing the start button. But now I've got the secret code, so I'm going to put that in and then we're going to see if it starts up after I put in the secret code. Matt, don't look okay, you reckon on it did the hazards? How did we start it last time without the ghost? Oh my, those we were out there for hours trying that. Well, that's one problem solved anyway. Now I think we got a lot more to get on with. Well, that's one lot of weight off my shoulder. But let's not forget this car is really badly damaged, and a worry there's even more damage that we can't see yet. I don't even know where to start. Like, this is going to be a whole new experience. I've never worked on a Rolls-Royce before. Who has? I think we're going to learn a lot as well. But all of these damaged parts have got to come off because, well, they're not staying on. First ball, we're going to start stripping off the bottom of the car, including the exhaust, which my dad's onto now, and then we're going to remove everything that's broken, Bren, and after we get all of that off we should be able to measure the chassis points to see if everything is straight. Off comes the exhaust, which is a Manor exhaust, pound 52,000 just for the rear part, and the front part is also damaged. I'm hoping we can get this repaired. And you know what, when he was a kid he was a Man U supporter. I was as well. Is that true? Yeah, glory supper. Maybe I should have been a Manzara supporter instead, because off come more damaged Manzara parts, and now I'm on to removing the heat shielding, which could unveil even more damage underneath it. But luckily this time the boot floor looks okay in places, because on the edge it is all pushed up, and I don't think this is going to be fixable, along with a rear subframe as well, which is completely ripped apart, and you can see here a drive shaft has been ripped out. The differential, as I mentioned, the plan is to get the rear subframe off so we can inspect the back of the car. So now my dad's on doing the prop shaft, which transfers the drive from the engine to the back wheels, all the differential, and with the differential loosened we can lower it. Laughter down, it is out and doesn't any damage underneath. Look at this, look at the fuel tank. It was, I think they call it a saddle because it looks like a horse saddle. It goes on a horse, I think that's what they call it. Any football puns for horses or saddles? No, really no, I don't think so. No, Sadler, is that a no? Adam Sadler, that he's sad? No, the fuel tank is another thing that's damaged. We can see a hole in it here. We're going to have to get back onto that later, because now our concentration is onto the re-subframe. We've got to disconnect all the wire in which is connected to the subframe from the chassis of the car so we can lower it down without breaking any of it. Along with the wiring we also need to disconnect the brake lines as well, and one thing I've never seen before are these hydraulic lines which go to the anti-roller. I assume these are there just to stiffen the suspension because the car is so heavy, but as these are attached to the chassis we're going to have to take them off. There should now be only 4 bolts holding the subframe to the car. This is what we're most worried about. Are these 4 bolts going to be still in line with each other? We're going to have to measure the distance between each of them once we get it down, but this one's worrying because that looks very, look at this. Yeah, should we get it down then? Yeah, it's not looking promising at the minute. Look how bent that bolt is. I can only hope that the bolt took most of the strain of the accident and it hasn't pulled the chassis out of line. Now I've got the jack underneath the rear subframe and we can start to lower it down and disconnect it away from the chassis of the Car alright, this is what they use in the body shops. Go in it. We going to go across. We need to measure the points diagonally across where the subframe bolts to the chassis, and if we get the same measurement each side we know the chassis hasn't moved. 89.6. And now we're going to go from the right to the back left. Come on, and we didn't have to move the tool at all, which means it's the exact measurement. What does it say? I've not adjusted it. I think that's good. We don't have to do anything there, which is good news. It's actually great news. None of these mounting points for the subframe have moved at all, and to be honest I thought they would have with the amount of damage that's on the actual subframe. You can see here the broken parts which have pulled off it, but we still have that structural damage in the boot floor here to deal with and the misshapen rear quarter, so we're going to be ringing Rolls-Royce later to find a prize. Do you know the exhaust is off yet? I wouldn't be a YouTuber without starting it without the exhaust yet. I think we need. I just want to hear what it sounds like. That's what you used to do when you were 17 with the Fiesta. Not let's see what a straight pipe Rolls-Royce sounds like, cause this could be quite funny just doing the Ghost. I don't know how loud this is going to be. Oh, it's not that loud. Sounds good. Now we all know what a straight pipe Rolls-Royce sounds like. I guess we ticking things off the bucket list. Now we're going to inspect the damage to the boo. How did it get that damage? It hit a lamp post. It didn't spin it. Did it hit the post and then it straight into the back of the net? Now you see when you try and close the boot it doesn't line up at all, and we can see the boot hasn't moved on the hinge, so at the minute we're guessing that the hinge is well of a bend, or it's moved wherever it's bowled to inside the car. So I'm going to start stripping the carpet out to see if we can see anything further. What the hell is all of this? It's like a PlayStation 2 look. Oh no, oh it's damage. Reckon up still work. Now I've got a better look at the hinge, and I can see it's bolted to the rear parcel shelf, and to get to those bolts I've got to strip the interior out, but I just genuinely think that hinge is bent, and then we've got all of this to sort out. There's a lot of damage underneath all of this electronic stuff, which I think most of it is to do with the sound system, so we're going to take all of that out, taking mental notes of where it all went back together, and now I can see the damage underneath. If you've seen the videos before you'll understand that the car is built up of all different sections. So look, you can see a section there, that's a cool little section, like even the back of the seats all in sections as well, and the way to fix all of this is just to work out what section is broken and replace that section. The only issue is this is structural damage, and we don't know whether a Rolls-Royce are going to sell us any of this, and if they don't, new Rolls-Royce jing. Now what I'm doing here is trying to call Rolls-Royce to try and order a rear quarter, because sometimes manufacturers won't sell you structural parts unless you're a registered repairer like Aston Martin and Porsche in the US, and I've got a funny feeling Rolls-Royce is going to be the same. We're looking for a rear quarter for it. Is that something that you can sell to us? You wouldn't be a problem. The quarter panel, it is shown available from Rolls-Royce, so essentially when we order from Rolls-Royce we can get them in 2 working days. The price is £89,599 plus the BO. Wow, £8,000 W00 a lot. £8,000 600 plus V for just that. What's he made out of gold? How can it be that £600 just for that? And then we need all them bits at the back. Are you regretting this yet? We are in Manchester, home of Manchester United, and we have some goodies and a few stories to tell. In the back there's some parts of the Rolls-Royce manor that has been a great story, and that has been a good win. That's been a win. Now about to take a loss. We think we may have found the bumper for the Rolls-Royce wrap, but I'm going to have to pay for it, and there's a story behind this. Let's go get it first. So after the first video went out, Rashford's team reached out to me to say they had some parts left over from the car in his lockup. Now apparently after the accident happened the car got trailered there and a lot of parts were hanging off it, so they took them off to keep them safe, some of which stayed safe, but one thing that didn't was the front bumper, and it ended up getting listed on eBay for cheap. Really, bearing in mind this Mansur front bumper wouldn't go on any other road, but someone still bought it, and I don't blame them. It was a bargain. But before we get back to that, let me show you what I got from Rashford's place. A Mansur bag which included a Mansur car cover worth €90, a flannels bag which included Manor floor mats worth 1,500, a Mansouri Forge carbon fiber front grille surround worth 4,900, a Mansur boot floor mat worth €760, a Rolls-Royce Rave front grille with the Mansur inserts and badge price unknown, a Mansur wheel cap worth €129, the Black Spirit of Ecstasy price unknown. Now I want to say thanks to Rashford's team for giving us all of this, cause they didn't have to, but this has saved us so much money. But they also GS more information on the crash, the actual bumper from the Rolls-Royce. We're going to explain the story, but there is look, is it cracked there in a dent, it is slightly damaged, but all of this we know how expensive all of this is, so we have saved a bit. But again, let me explain. So it turns out the guy who bought the bumper off eBay was also bidding on the car and wanted it just in case he won it, which obviously he didn't, so he then listed it on Facebook Marketplace for £3,000. Which, to be fair, is a fair price. This thing's worth £12,000 without the extra bits on it, so then I bought it. But in my opinion, someone's been a little naughty here, and the bumper should have stayed with the car all along, and then your extra bits like this carbon fiber a bit on the side, €4,600, so it's €1,000, €4,600 for the pair of them. That front splitter is extra. I don't even know, it's probably going to be around £20,000 for this front bumper. On top of that, inside all of here they are like daytime running light things. But one thing that we still don't have: the umbrellas. They didn't have them, we still don't have the umbrellas. Who's got them? Someone's got them, someone's got the umbrellas. I will not stop until we get those umbrellas. Next thing we got to remove is that broken fuel tank from underneath, cause a lot of the stuff is bent. I then removed the filler pipes of the tank. Oh no, who say it had no fuel in? Well, not, it shouldn't have fuel in the filler. Is there a football to do with a mess? Oh, that's very messy. Okay, the football puns are getting worse by the minute. With the hoses off, we can now start to lower the tank down, remembering to disconnect the electrical connectors which go to the fuel pump which sit in the tank. Now, I mentioned earlier that Rashford has seen the video and his team said he's a little upset because the crash wasn't his fault, and I believe him. The insurance actually paid out, and it wasn't his insurance that paid out for the damage. It was the 75-year-old L that caused the accident. Let me explain how the accident happened. This was the road where the crash happened. Now further up, the lane splits into two. Now, from my understanding, the 74-year-old was driving in the left lane and Rashford moved into the right lane, but later down the road she went to merge into the right lane and hit Marcus's car, sending him into a spin and smashing down the post here. Luckily both of them are okay, but it was deemed the 74-year-old lady's fault. So if the insurance paid out, how come it's not categorized? That is a whole different story in itself, and there's apparently a legal loophole. We found someone who can explain that for us, but before we get onto that story, we've got a front subframe to remove, because you can see here it is completely ripped apart and a lot of the arms which attach to it are pretty bent as well. First thing off are the wheels, then we can remove the arch line. More structural damage, I didn't even spot this. Look at that. Oh, after that, front caliper is coming off and all the brake lines and electrical connectors that connect to it. Remember, this car has only done 1,000 miles, so a lot of it is pretty much brand new, so we want to keep it that way so we can reinstall music. Then I'm going to be taking the brake disc off again, which is pretty much brand new, and my dad's undoing all of the hydraulic lines which go into this thing underneath the car, which we still haven't worked out what it is. And now I'm undoing the bolt which connects the steering rack to the steering column inside the car. So at the minute the engine is resting on this subframe, and if we start lowering the subframe, the engine is going to come down with it. But the gearbox which is attached to the engine is mounted here to the chassis of the car, so it's still kind of all as one. We want to get the subframe down but leave the engine in. Now what I'm going to do is undo these two bolts here, which are the two bolts which are connecting the subframe to the engine, so now I can separate the subframe to the engine. Problem is there's nothing holding the engine at the top of the car, which is what we're going to have to figure out in a minute. So we'll loosen these out and then we can lower the car down to support it from the top. Usually you use this for this job, so usually this would go across the top like that, sit on a wing, sit on the other wing, you hook that to the engine mount, and then this would hold the engine up in place while you take the subframe down. But the issue is this is resting on this carbon fiber wing, and I don't fancy putting all the weight on this carbon fiber wing, although it is pretty strong. Yeah, but this is like 800 kilos that's got to going on it. Yeah, no, we're not risking it. Don't even think about it. It's pretty strong. No, it's not. This is not going to take 800 kilos. Yeah, but it's not 800 kilos it's taken. Is it really 400? It's like it's distributed throughout the whole bar. So 400 that side and 400 this side. Well, not exactly, no, cause then the gearbox is being held to the chassis, so it is distributed quite even there. Safety at its finest is happening right now, supported on the chassis there and not supported on the chassis there, because we're lazy. We need to take the wing off. More to the point, we've got to take the door off, and we Got to mess with the side we don't really want to mess with. Reinforcement wood is underneath holding that, and then we're going to crank it up like this. Now this bar is supporting the engine from the top, and I'm hoping our reinforcement wood will be able to hold it. Okay, happy with that, ain't going nowhere. Now we can raise the car up in the air and start disconnecting the bolts which hold the subframe to the chassis of the car, and there's quite a few of them because the front subframe is going to be super heavy. My dad's got the gearbox stand to hold it, and now we're going to make sure everything is disconnected before we undo the final bolt. After that we can lower it down. What's in there? Oh, Rashford must have been drinking W food. What that is? Yeah, it's a W food. You know what it is though? Yeah, it feels why if you're hungry. Yeah, it's a meal replacement drink. It's not a diet drink. It's not a protein shape. Inside one of these bottles there's 500 calories full of vitamins and minerals, 26 vitamins and minerals, time fiber, high protein, lactose free, gluten-free, and there's no added sugar. Now this is the Matt Armstrong limited edition bottle. We've sold this out, so thank you so much to all you guys who have got one of these, but luckily enough you can go and grab a W food. Still, you can still grab the happy banana flavor in the taster pack if you want to try this out. Try to be a little bit healthier than usual, replacing the fast food at lunchtime. You can do with a link in the description box below and this banner appearing underneath you. Right now you get a nice bit of discount. Now let me know, do we do another limited edition Matt Armstrong Y food, and if so what flavor should we do? We can do anything I think. Look at that, that's a V12 up with a bit water. Look at that Parrish, it's a good job we checked this because what's probably happened from the accident, these engine mounts are oil filled to cushion the blow of the engine. Now look at it, it's just flying out of that, so that's going to need to be replaced. But that nor sometimes happens in an accident, but it's a good job be done that, because after a while you might, when you accelerate, you right hear a little knock knock. That'll stop that. Bet that ain't cheap. Look, the actual engine mount, it's a good job we've done this. Oh my god, look at that, it's actually broke the cast aluminium engine mount. And you know what, so if this couldn't hold it but our blocks of wood could hold it, so it's absolutely Perry's E. So as we expected, there was more hidden damage, and I'm guessing these engine mounts are not going to be cheap. But what I want to know is, how is this car not registered as damaged even though the insurance paid out? Well, we called someone with some inside knowledge. There's no legal obligation to put a category on. There's no law about this. It's actually a code of conduct, and it's a code of conduct that insurers have signed up to if they're members of the ABI, which is the Association of British Insurers. So yeah, the insurance legally don't have to categorize a car. Now the reason for this, if I get this right, let's say you own a rare Ferrari, then there's a waiting list for them, and some hits into the rear bumper and damages it. Now the only thing the car needs is a rear bumper, but because the car is so rare, it's going to take over a year to get the rear bumper, and in your insurance policy it says that you will get a like for like car hire for the time that your car is in for repair, and this isn't financially viable for the insurance. The car will be in for repair for over a year, and in that year the insurance will be paying for the customer's car hire. So what they end up doing is writing off the car, giving you a full payout for the car, but then they don't categorize it, because then when the car goes to auction it's likely to reach more money, so the insurance hasn't taken as much of a hit. So you essentially think that by them not categorizing the car, they're doing that to benefit the second-hand sale at the auction. That's exactly what they've done. There's no question they've done that one. He then went on to explain how the manufacturers can have an influence on the category of the car, but I can explain that on the Mark II channel, so make sure you subscribe to both channels. Now let's work out how we're going to repair this thing. The steering rack here seems okay apart from the trap rod end, which is bent. That's broken. This arm's broken. The suspension strut is broken off that side cause it's supposed to look like that side, and this actual subframe is broke as well, like it's broken from underneath. This is going to end, and then we need engine mounts as well. This is going to be so expensive to do, and then on top of that we do need the menorah stuff. I've got myself into it now, so there's no turning back. I genuinely think our option with the other car is going to be the best. I think there's no other way around. Music guys, this is Sue Music Sue, right? I didn't want to have to do this, but we've got the all clear from Hannah because we HAV, this was the only thing we could do. This is a Range Rover, an older one. It's not a Range Rover, yeah, a Rolls Royce. Sue S is a Range Rover, he's not a Range Rover. Upset, keep getting the wrong card. Sue is a Rolls Royce 2015, she's 9 years old. We had no other option. I tried to find crash damage Rolls Royce, can't find them. They all get category B, and when they're category B they can't be put back on the road, and to buy a category B car you have to have a license, a breaker's license. We tried to find one with flood damage or an engine problem. We couldn't. This financially is our only option now. If you look older Rolls-Royce value a lot, the 2015 model going around 90,000, which is still expensive for a car no doubt, but it's a lot better than 350,000 pounds, and I got Sue for 97,000, and this is I can't even express how much of a squeaky boom this is going to give me now, because from the moment Sue goes in this ramp she'll be stripped apart and there's no chance of me ever getting that money back. It goes against everything I've ever done, but from the amount of cars that we put back on the road, we're going to have to take a loss on this one. I think it's the only way financially. Rashford's one makes sense. The thing is, it isn't all plain sailing from here. The reason Sue is cheaper is because she's the previous model. So you notice the headlights are the preface lift, so the front bumper is different, the headlights are different. There's a few things which are different, but generally we're hoping the front subframe, all the suspension, the doors and the rear quarter are going to be the same, which are the parts we need on top of that. The parts we don't use we can sell, which is really high value stuff. We just hoping people need them. The engine's worth around 30,000 pounds as it is with the gear, but we're still going to have the whole interior. We should be able to gain a money back through selling the parts that we don't use. This is 97,000 pounds. The Rashford one has cost me 84,000 pounds. We yet to find out how much all the Manzara parts are going to cost, but previously we did find out from Mansur, like including £47,000. Oh music. Yet if we actually let's come and have a little walk round Susuyu to, you're a bit like a doctor. I just can't deny giving me the best time. Made with heavy black heart by Glasp.